so much to bring our dreams into this reality. We set each other free. Welcome everybody to a special edition early morning compared to all our other shows for Eagles Nest podcast. We have Dr. Scott Irwin going to be joining us here in just a moment. But as you know, like when we, same thing with Hamilton, when we had him on a few weeks ago, Hamilton Souther, we had to kind of work around the schedule down south because we're living in different worlds and different times and people's schedules. So, but we're going to have an amazing conversation with a very dear friend of mine that has, he saw me, he saw my initial transformation, like some of the first ceremonies I did at Soul Quest, he saw me, um, as that eagle cracking out of the shell, as they might say. But it's a great conversation that we're going to have. We had a amazing conversation in the pre-test, making sure everything was going to work and everything is set right. And yeah, just you guys are in for a treat today. But let me see. We have some things to take care of. Oh yeah, my books. Book number 1, the I'm Perfect and So Are You. It's available on Amazon. It's now available in a third option. There's a paperback option, the um, the the digital format, and also there's the hardback format, and that's edition number 2. The cover is different, and there's some reviews on the back from quoted off of a Facebook post that Billy Carson made about my books. There's a quote on the back, and you're just gonna have to buy the book to find out, or look it up online and look up the picture of the back of it. But yeah, it's available in hardback edition now, and Pioneer and the Guru is available now also. And both books are now available on Sacred Journeys Within website. So if you order from the website, right, where's my website? This guy right there, sacreddreamswithin.com. Go there and you can go to the store page, and both books are available there. And soon the hardbacks will be available there. So if you order from the website, you get a autographed copy, a personal autographed copy from me, along with usually Ella throws in another gift in there. But yeah, that's what's going on the personal thing. Oh yeah, and Ella's my wife is designing a bunch of new T-shirts for festivals and ceremonies. There's beanies, there's hoodies, there's shawls, there's all types of cool psychedelic options going on, and she's gonna be launching the Trust and Surrender line. So anyone that's been to ceremony with us, the Sacred Journeys Within mantra of trust and surrender when we go into medicine. So we're gonna, yeah, we decided to make that into a clothing line. So that's gonna be a lot of people really vibe with that. So that's what we're gonna do. So be on the lookout for that in the store page at Sacred Journeys Within. Let's see, someone's in the chat room. Good morning, Joy. Thanks for joining us today on this might as well be church today, I guess. It's church Sunday. Let's see. Coming up. Okay. Star knowledge. Okay, star knowledge 11/11 2022. So this November 11th, 12th, and 13th, join me, Laura Eisenhower, and a bunch of other people as we honor the late Chief Golden Light Eagle in Wagner, South Dakota at the Star Knowledge Conference. I'll be speaking about manifestation. I'll be speaking about telekinesis, telepathy, and getting all into that. And yeah, I'll be just diving into some really deep stuff there. So you're not going to want to miss that. Here's the website. Check it out. You can go there and get your tickets. Get your tickets now before they sold out. Like I said, this is a 26th annual Star Knowledge 11/11 conference. We're going to be honoring the late Chief Golden Light Eagle. His daughter Nikki is heading that up, and she is if you don't know about Nikki, you can check out. She's about 2 or 3 episodes ago um, on Eagles Nest podcast. So go check her out. And we talk a lot about it, her father, his teachings, his star teachings. And yeah, it's a conference. We're gonna be sharing a lot of information, but ultimately we're gonna be honoring uh, the late chief, his passing and everything, and all his knowledge that he passed on. And we're gonna try to do that by delivering an amazing conference. Again, me, Laura Eisenhower, and a man. There's a I don't know the whole. Dave Cruz is gonna be there. He's going to be filming live for his podcast. Yeah, but come check us out. And you can get all the information right there. Star Knowledge 1111, honoring Chief Golden Light Eagle. Next, I'll be going straight from there, from Wagner, South Dakota. I'll be going down to Orlando for Zen Awakening Festival. I'll be there November 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st. Look out on the website, follow the website, and expect some type of ceremony to be occurring. Me and Ellis probably will have some type of ceremony somewhere in Florida around those dates, either before or after. So it's probably only be one weekend. It might be only just one ceremony, but um, be on the lookout. And if you're in Florida, come join us at Zen Awakening. And if you can't join us, and if you're in Florida, definitely be on the lookout. We're definitely in the process of organizing some type of ceremony while we're there. So, and let's see. Let's see. Yeah, and there's if you're listening on Facebook, on the Facebook Live, go and follow us on YouTube before or after, and check out past guests, upcoming guests. We have a slew of an amazing guests all the way from deep into the ET contact realm, deep in the ayahuasca realm, and it's all things that keep me going. It keeps me pumping. Pat Breeze is in the chat room. Hey, Pat, how's it going? And we're going to take this down. And without further ado, I'm going to bring my dear friend. I'm going to do a little introduction for if you don't know. This is Dr. Scott Irwin. I know him as Scott, or my brother from another mother. And I met him at Soul Quest back in 2016, and he was the head facilitator, the not the head facilitator, the head minister there. And yeah, I don't know him by a lot of titles, because he's I just see his heart, I see his glow. But about little over a year ago, he went down to Ecuador and never came back, and he's been living with a tribe down there, doing this crazy tea named ayahuasca, and just tripping a lot. But no, I want to bring him on. This is my dear friend Scott, Dr.
Hey,
Scott.
Drew. Hey,
Hey, brother.
brother. Good to see you. Brother from another mother. So
Yeah,
true.
man.
I love that, trust and surrender. It's like, that's what brought me to Ecuador, is that whole thing about trust and surrender. So sign
Yeah.
me up for a hoodie. I need that.
It's a great mantra. And it's how I explain it. It's trust and surrender to yourself, trust and surrender to the medicine, not anything else. I'm not talking about trust and surrender to,
The
what
government.
whatever happens here in this ceremony. But when I go into ceremony, I explain it. This is the best thing to repeat in your head while you're taking the breath after you drink your cup. After you drink your first cup. What else? And there's
That
there's
came
not.
to you during a ceremony? That came to you
Yeah,
during an
yeah,
experience?
yeah.
I had
Madre told.
something similar with a Bufo experience that I did. When I came out of it, it was like only love, only love, only love, 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 love. And
Yeah.
that was the mantra that came out of that. And it's like, and so many years later, it's like, that's the answer to this, the statement that I made. It's like, that's exactly what I mean. And it's like, it means so much more when it's revealed to you deep in a ceremony. So way cool. I love that.
Yeah, she's always there to give pointers. And even I talked about this with Hamilton. Like, I started serving medicine before my source experience, but after my source experience, I had to recalibrate how my ceremonies were, how my mindset was, because I was looking at everything from a vastly different point of view. Have you had any? And this is like we're jumping off the diving board, like
Yeah,
we're
I can
jumping off
swim.
the diving board. You know? Have you? I'm sure you've had a source experience like in your journey. I just feel this, you know. So what is it? How was your recalibration process to come to a different viewpoint of, or did you have this at all? Did you have this experience at all?
So yeah, so I've done I've done a lot of medicine work here. You know, when I
Mm,
first came down here to the rainforest in central Ecuador, we're in the southern foothills of the Andes, and this is a place where ayahuasca is a national treasure, as are the indigenous, and the medicine here is the purveyors are not called a shaman, they're called yachaks, and that's like the Quechua equivalent of shaman. So the yachaks here are experts. We're talking 50 generations of medicine men and women, and Warmi Yachuks are the women that do this work. And so their medicine, of course, the main medicine is the ayahuasca, but there's also another medicine called guanto, which is do or dutra or Filipandio or angel's trumpet. I mean, so many names for this, infamous, so many people have died from this. And for me, that was one of those all in 12-hour journeys that was hugely transportational. It's like over into other realms. And when we're talking about dipping into the source, there are all kinds of emanations of the source that express themselves in our journeys. And I remember in this particular one, a direct experience with plants and the spirit, the magical energy, the spirits of the plants. I mean, the in the Quechua culture here, their belief is that all plants are sacred. All plants are alive. All plants are sentient. There's abuelos and niños and kids and all that. And so and that you're connected in that same source. So you are related to them, and there is a kinship with the plants naturally towards us because they don't see us as separate. There's a whole
mm,
different um, orientation towards life and living beings. And
mhm.
so in this experience, the I had this direct experience with the spirit of bamboo
Wow.
and Mighty Warrior and Star Wars. Is just this incredible, powerful energy. And I have forever after that had whole casitas made out of bamboo. I love bamboo. There's such a strength in the bamboo and really expressed with great reverence and connection. And so to me, that was profound because, having experiences in the past with ayahuasca and medicine, meeting the madre and that sort of thing is another direct experience with the source because they're all they're all emanations of that. Also in that guanto there was so guanto is really used for healers, and the yachuk that in this particular case had 50 years of experience in facilitating guanto, and they watch you. You're protected. They take good care of you. And I just remembered the afterwards meeting another spirit of another plant, which is the coleus plant. And I'll be damned. It's like I'm looking at this beautiful. It's red with all these leaves in this. These leaves that are shaped like glasses. And this woman just jumps up and she's wearing like this, dress that Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz was wearing, except for ruby red, like her slippers. And she's got little white, blousey shirt, and she's wearing these glasses that are the same as the shape of these leaves. And she's like, you can see me. It's like, hello, hello. It was just like this. It was crazy. And it was as real. It was as real as you sitting here. And it's like that to me opened me up to the connection with the plant kingdom that I'd only touched before. A daytime ceremony at Soul Quest, I had this incredible experience with this little vine had this little tendril, and this tendril wrapped around my finger and started sucking all the darkness out of my being. And then my hand started turning black and blue and purple. And I'm like, am I okay? Am I just like, what is like necrosis? I'm like, what's going on here? And then it released. And I'm like, this is real. I saw the plant grab my finger and suck all this stuff out and then let it go. And then I put my hands in the earth, and all of a sudden it was like I was one with all the plants. And it was this combination of these experiences from ceremony to ceremony that have brought me closer and closer and closer to a relationship with the plant kingdom. And so I don't see a separation between, the spirit of the plants and the spirit of the source, because it's all one, it's the same.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I've had that, infinite, incredible, blissful state of oneness, but no guy with a beard and none of that, Abrahamic religious, stuff. It's never been like that. And, I've told this story before, leading church services at Soul Quest, the story of when I met the Madre, and it was in a pit of snakes, like a den of snakes, and I don't like snakes. Here I am surrounded by this anaconda, and I'm like in a nest with all these other baby snakes, and she's like, like in the nest, and we're in earth, we're like underground. And I'm just like freaking out in this medicine. I'm like, get me out of here. This is not, and then all of a sudden, bam, she just morphed into Della Reese, this woman, African-American woman from this TV show called Touched by an Angel. And she was like, honey child, you need to chill. You need some flapjacks. And so she just started making me some flapjacks. Next thing I know, I was like, that's more like it. I can handle that. And so I always say, it's like this idea that the medicine will appear to us in a form that we can relate to. And so which should be the most beneficial for us at that moment. And that was my first introduction to the Madre. It's like, Della Reese, just like, honey, it's like, you're okay. Like, we're all in this together. So, but many ceremony, I did like 11 when I first got here, ceremonies with ayahuasca. The ayahuasca here tastes different. It's more liquidy. It's not as thick. It's it's bitter, of course. And it's got the, grit in it like you do everywhere else. But it's easier to swallow. It's not like really thick molasses, like we get at Soul Quest or other, people that make it. And so the medicine here is powerful, strong. And, the other work that I was doing was with the mushrooms, and in my, working with, people that are very experienced with the mushrooms and doing, like 7 gram wax, 7 grams, then 20 grams. And, in a 20 gram experience, changed. Everything changed. Like the Matrix. It's like, I understand now. I gotcha. Like, I get it. I'm not the same person. And talk about liberation. That's one of the most amazing things about the plant medicine is that it can help us to liberate, our minds from the program. Everything's a program. Everywhere is a program. We are program. Everywhere.
So
And
true.
so it's, seeing reptilians, like, ew, seeing them in my skin and feeling them, and they're in there, and it's like, what are you doing in there? It's like, get out of there, and extracting them and doing exorcisms, so to speak, with the help from experienced facilitators. And boy, there's so much more room for me in there now, because
That's
these
beautiful.
other spirits or these other energies, have had their, their connection. And I think, this might sound a little strange, but not in this world of medicine, I suppose. But I really believe that, parasites and worms, parasitos and bichos, as they call them here, is a medium for a lot of that energy to connect to us and hack into our central nervous system and tap into our mind and numb us and dumb us and block us and prevent us from, from really ascending and, liberating. Like, haven't you started a diet or, tried to exercise, and the next thing you know, you're like, you lose that thing. It's like, where did it go? It's like something's blocking it. And it's like, I believe there are these forces or influences that are just not, pulling the rug out from under us any opportunity they can, because God, the last thing that this energy in the world wants is for us to show up as the highest versions of ourselves. God, what would happen to this planet? So.
I saw one of the visions that I saw at Soul Quest. I did 6 ceremonies at Soul Quest. My second ceremony was my breakthrough. That's where I really believed in the spirit world. My
Mhm.
my third ceremony, I went in intention. It was daytime. I went in with the intention of asking why I was on this planet, and I got shown all of this back then, and it was very hard to understand back then. What all the stuff going on now. I'd have my own church. I had books. I had my own podcast. I'd be known all over the world for my words. And basically I'm just translating my visions and sharing people what I saw, and then I help whatever. But the first book talks about the divine, the I'm perfect and so are you. It's not egotistically saying it. It's saying that
Humble.
every
It's humble to know the truth.
everything is divine timing in every single moment. If we can remember that in the moment, it's a cool understanding. But when it becomes your cellular understanding, it became my
Mhm.
cellular understanding, because I gave up form and I become source. I was ball of light. And when I was in that space, I saw everything was balanced of
Mhm.
what was happening. So then I was given the option to come back into form, and this was what I chose to come back into, the same
Mhm.
form. But that all that experience, being able to remember it like it happened just yesterday.
Changes
And
your perspective completely.
that's what I was speaking on. Like, this happened while since I've had since I've been serving medicine and everything, and I had to recalibrate, because my whole perception of everything was different. I knew I wasn't begging for these spirits to come and help me anymore. I was more saying, like, I was more on an even playing field, and I was like, I would pop into a space and I'd be like, hey, come over here, guys. And
Mhm.
it was more of like a partnership. So I
Yeah,
had to
like they're in your field and they're supporting you,
all
and
the
they're there
time.
when you need
Yeah,
them.
all the
Yeah.
yeah, and just realizing they're there all the time. All realizing that you're surround. It's more about what Ram Dass talks about. The drop, identifying as the ocean, but still realizing it's a drop as well. You know,
Yeah. They
and
use the I'm a glass, you're with your ego and with your physical body, you're a glass, and then there's
oh
the
yeah,
ocean. How can the glass conceive of I'm the ocean? Because the
yeah,
glass
yeah,
can only know the parameters of a glass.
yeah.
So what you were talking about, that is the perspective that you gain, is really the difference between thinking that life is happening to me or life is happening for me. And there's such a big difference in that perspective, because if it's happening for me, it's like all things are happening for my highest good.
Hmm.
Even the flat tire, and like we were talking about the birth of your son. I mean, all of that is like, it's so much more than any of us can understand, because we're the glass. And there's this
Yeah,
infinite intelligence that's supporting us and loving us and adoring us, and we're interfering with the reception, because we get all this static and distraction and day-to-day life. And part of my calibration coming back into the realm, the physical realm, after a lot of the deep ceremony work, it really was isolation. For me, it's like I had 2 weeks of deep isolation and a dieta after my big journeys. And the isolation for me is what really helps me to solidify my new boundaries, my new order, like my new orientation. So when everything that they told us is a lie, everything is a lie.
absolutely.
Religion is a lie. The propaganda of politics is a lie. the story of our origins is a lie. The fake, everything fake, the infiltration of all systems of our modern, even ancient societies have all been you know skewed by other agendas. And when you wake up to that kind of truth, it's not fun.
Yeah.
It's pretty lonely, and it's pretty scary, and it's like it's sad. It's like you weep for humanity, because it's like we are like sheep. It's like we're like the sheep that are in Farmer John's field, and we're just all grazing on grass and happy to go lucky. And then here comes Farmer John with the big truck, and it's like, okay, oh, he's gonna take us to another pasture.
Hmm.
And there we all, the sheep just march in line and go up to that truck, and once we're in that truck, there it goes off into the slaughterhouse, because the sheep would not conceive that Farmer John, he loves us, because sheep are like that. They can't conceive of evil, dark, in drinking baby blood or whatever. They just can't conceive of you
I
being
mean,
in a
it,
container in a grocery store.
it goes so deep, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if people actually realize that even our lifespans are predetermined and programmed into us.
Mm.
We are programmed to live a certain amount of years, like, and
Deprogrammed, deprogrammed.
you can deprogram that and live a lot longer. Like,
Yeah.
once if people, like, it's so when I saw everything, like, I saw everything. I saw
Mm-hmm.
everything at once. And I
Mm-hmm.
come back, and I was just when I come back into existence, it took me 4 days. I talk about it. I talk about it in my books. The third, there was I was moving stuff with my mind without trying. I was reading people's minds without trying. Like, I was in isolation, for until the third day. And me and Ella went to we were in Florida, and we went to a grocery store, and as I was walking in the grocery store, I felt every being that had ever been in that building. I felt all their energy had I felt how much energy was put in, all the way from making the bolts that put it
Mm.
all together, all the way to people shopping in there and everything. I walking in there, and, like, words were
Overwhelming.
oh, it was overwhelming. When I was walking down the aisle, Ella was talking to me. I couldn't hear her. It was like all muffled. And I was like, I was talking to these spirits in my telepathically, and I was like, am I going crazy, or is this real? And words were popping off of stuff on the shelves, and it was connecting with a word off the song that was playing through the supermarket, and that connected with a word that these two people were having a conversation where the words jumped out, and they were making sentences, and it was glowing in front of me walking down the aisle. It was insane, man. Like, and this is without medicine. This is days
Yeah.
after.
This is
This is
without medicine. This is just
without
like,
medicine.
you
Yeah.
are the medicine now.
Yeah, it's like
So
he
funny.
always wanted to bring the ceremony into life. And
Yeah.
but
But it
the
is it is confusing though, because it's
it
a new
is.
orientation to the world, and in the people or the institutions that we trusted, that we relied on as a nation, that as cultures, when it's wrong, it's incorrect, it's inaccurate, it's confabulated, it's like perpetuated. It's like when I talk about the story of Santa Claus. You mean like everybody is in on it? You mean there is no Santa? And it's like, seriously? There's
Yeah.
books, there's stories. It's like you can sit on his lap, and it's like it's all lies. Seriously? And so that's the hola, hola. Yo tengo una reunión ahorita. So
Hola,
regresa.
está bien.
Say hola. Sí.
Hola.
Este es mi, this is my hijado. He's my godson. This is
Oh.
Adrian. So he's a sweetheart. So regresa in una hora. Okay. Yeah. It's awesome, kid. I've got a whole bunch here. Like, I tell you, it's like my life here is so blessed and so charmed. And one of the things that happens to me every day here is these little visits from my little friends, and you know, and that's part of this culture here, is they're so pure, and they're so sweet, and they're so charming. But kids here, we the in Sacha Wasi is the tribal community. There are
I'm
two
so
rivers.
I'm so glad you pronounced that before I had to.
Sacha Wasi.
Because
Sacha
yeah,
Wasi.
I meant to ask you that before. I was like, I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Sacha.
Okay, all right.
Sacha
Uh,
Wasi, yeah.
but I do
And
want to
so
I do want to point out that the child come in right at a point when you were talking about something I was yeah, it was on my mind to bring up. You
what's that?
know, when I look at these things, when I look at the governmental structure, the powers to be, you know, I look at them like a child. Like I look at them playing, and I, they can bump their heads or do whatever they want to, but that's a totally different world than really what I'm living in.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
and the nature of reality is really there's a whole nother truth.
yeah,
So it's like, it's like going up to the movie and saying you're the reality, and it's like
right.
you're not the reality.
Yeah, but I
You're the projection.
some people will never get it, you know. But one thing I did see at Soul Quest, you know, I was definitely told only to leave and go find my own path
Hmm.
after 6 ceremonies. But I think it was like a fourth or fifth one. I saw it was a huge vision I had. I was off planet. I was looking at the Earth, and I saw ayahuasca coming out of South America, and I saw the vines wrap around the whole Earth
Oh, beautiful.
and engulf it. And now I see that happening. You know, I see it happening. You know, I don't know if you follow the news up here. You know, but Aaron Rodgers, he's a famous football player, and he just come out. He did ayahuasca, and he did ayahuasca years ago, and he attributes to was it a player? I don't know. He was the top player or whatever it is. Like
Heisman Trophy winner.
no, that's I think college, but whatever. It's professional football, but it was
Yeah.
like the top player for 2 years in a row,
Oh,
and
wow.
he attributes those 2 years to visions that he had in ayahuasca, where she tweaked and his existence and showed him
Wow.
how to look at things different and everything. Not
That's like
only
when Will Smith came here to Ecuador. It's like, in talking about his,
yeah,
his experience. I mean, those are interesting, connections for the mainstream to learn about this medicine. But,
hmm
with that comes, one of the big concerns, one of the initiatives that we have here is about, replanting the vine, because over harvesting is happening. And of course, here in the Amazon, the big deal is deforestation, and there's so much deforestation going on. We're talking about 150 acres a minute, and
wow,
that's a lot. There are forest fires, there's extractive industries like logging and mining, and then you have farming, which is the biggest source of deforestation. And even and then you have the ayahuasca retreats, and most of the over extraction of the ayahuasca is happening, the harvesting is happening in Peru. And there's, the gatherers are starting to, speak up and say, we're going to be out of large vine. It's wild ayahuasca. It's difficult to find. It's no longer in the surrounding communities where they have these retreats. The gatherers have to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the jungles to get the medicine. And, it's not going to last. And so one of
how long does it take to get a potent vine? You know, I know you can harvest anytime.
minimum 5 years minimum. And so and
What is ideal? What is 12 years? 15?
so sure, 80.
80?
Nice big fat vine,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know and that's one of the initiatives that, because the community here is connected to the larger indigenous communities in South America, and of course in Ecuador mainly. But we're talking about the Quichua. In Peru it's Quechua with a Q, so it's K here, Q there. So, but it's still, origins of, you know uh, deep lineages. So ayahuasca is centric in this community, and there's a great concern. So we started a program called Adopt a Vine, and so people that are interested in adopting a vine, for example, they will through vegetative propagation, do a cutting of a vine. You're going to get a nice piece of vine, root it in a root ball, and then when a person adopts the vine, then that vine is then planted in their name or in the honoree's name, and it's tagged. And the person gets a digital certificate that says that I adopted this vine that's there in the jungle, and this right here, at Sacha Wasi, and someday I'm going to go visit it, because if we don't, we're going to run out of medicine, and that is not going to be great. We're talking about, we don't have that much time. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know how many years, maybe a year or two left until there's no more large vine.
Wow.
I mean, in places like Ecuador and Colombia and Costa Rica, we're not seeing the kind of over harvesting. But Peru is the epicenter of ayahuasca in the world, and really that's where the majority of the ayahuasca retreats are, and the consumption are, and also the exportation, because you have the increase of ceremonies going on in the United States, where you are, and
Mhm.
and in Europe, and so there is where the tons, hundreds of thousands of tons of ayahuasca are leaving the Amazon. And so, that's one of our big initiatives, is that we want to replant and replant. Every time a person comes here for a ceremony, we harvest it, make the ayahuasca, and we replant both the ayahuasca vine, and we don't have chacruna here, it's yahe. And replant the yahe. So you can adopt chacruna or yahe or the ayahuasca or both or whatever. And that's what we think that is imperative for
What's
balance.
for the yahe compared to chacruna? What's
It's
the
just a difference of vine and bush. So it's the same. Basically, the species is in the same family and the same potency, but you're looking at, one is a bush and other one is a vine. And so the leaves are essentially the same. You're getting still extracting DMT from it. But one is, you're going to have the chacruna
how's
more
that
in.
how's the potency compared on those two?
I
For
believe that they're equal. I've not heard of any, distinction between them. So powerful, powerful. So, I
nice.
mean, that's important. I mean, we all have, if we're using this medicine, we have to be thinking about the conservation of it, and the support of it, so that
For sure.
we're not extracting it, and we're
For
not
sure.
over harvesting. So, I mean, that's a big thing that I'm working on here. I mean, I've got a lot
Yeah.
of projects going on here,
Yeah.
you know.
I was, as we were speaking beforehand, we work with San Pedro here in ayahuasca, and our San Pedro's all closed loop, from
Mm-hmm.
all the way
Mm-hmm.
from seed, all the way to ceremonies, all closed looped here. And we're not able to do that obviously with ayahuasca. We don't have we
Yeah, in North America and in Europe, it's just, it doesn't grow in the climate.
yeah, it's hard.
So,
I and that's we work with Changa now here,
mm-hmm.
and that ceremony come to us years ago, and then the spirit came to me and gave me the recipe and everything, and that's moving forward. I saw that Chongo was going to be more used just because it's easier to
Yep,
transport. It's
yep.
and San Pedro, like people underestimate San Pedro, as we talked about, like, but San Pedro will actually show you the ceremony is here in your face all the time, like
Mm-hmm.
it's right here in front of you at all times. It's always been
And
here,
so, such heart-centered medicine.
oh yeah. I mean, that's where that's where we manifest from, really. I feel is from our heart.
Absolutely.
It's not
From
up here.
here and up and out. Yeah.
Yeah, manifest from our heart, and that's what I was shown some deep lessons about how our solar system, the earth is the heart chakra for our solar system, and
Mm.
was shown how everything has a chakra system, and I
Yeah,
was
interesting. Yeah.
so all the way from a solar system all the way down to an ant, and we all have the same energetic makeup. That's all actually the same size, because the size and variation is all illusion as well, just
Mm.
like the separation. So,
Hmm.
but
Yes.
yeah, man. So, man, going down there, like, what was the transition like? And we don't have to get into reasons why. Like, I know you've already covered got into an episode of why you left Soul Quest and moved down there. But what was it like those first couple days, and how long did it take for you to decide, okay, I'm not going back.
Yeah, that's a funny question. It's yeah, I have to think about how it all unfolded because yeah, and of course I'm as soon as it was posted that I was going to be speaking on the subject in that last podcast that I did, immediately there were lawyers threatening, you better not say anything. We have two cases that are going to trial, and one of the cases is a civil case, and it's going to a trial with a jury in March of 2023, which I just received my subpoena for, and the other one is the federal case, and I don't know if I'm involved with that federal case, but I certainly was in the exemption process, and so uh, you know clearly made really clear that you can't say anything that will prejudice anybody about the church or about the leaders of the church. And of course you know there's all kinds of information and depositions that have been done before, so people can find out when maybe one day you'll be able to speak freely, and that'll be an interesting conversation, because speaking freely is different than speaking on here
Yeah.
about those things, because
Well,
there's a story, there's always a story.
well,
Yep.
I'm
So
sure if we don't have any listeners now, we will have in the future. And I just want to reach out to them and let them know, the medicine will always open you with open arms. Your true self will always open you with open arms, no matter what you do or what
mhm,
decisions you make. And just know that you're dealing with people now that really affect the greater humanity. So
yeah,
take that into account. Whoever's
right.
listening or will listen.
So when I got here, it was at the invitation of a colleague of mine who is this Russian, and he had a group of Russians that were coming from, Russia, Ukraine, some folks from Dubai, really interesting, Siberia, some interesting people. Little few of them spoke English, and so, but we had a Russian interpreter, and I'm leading integration, and with the interpreter and all that kind of stuff, and it was amazing. It was thrilling, and coming to this community. I mean, like I had mentioned before, it's like I had no interest in being in the jungle. I never thought about staying in the jungle. I never thought about coming to the jungle. It's like the jungle is spiders and snakes and rain, and it's not comfortable, and I'm like, I like the convenience of the medicine and air conditioning and all those, food, and
Yeah.
and sleeping in a nice bed, and and
Nice big shower to go shower
yeah,
in.
all those
Yeah.
comforts, because I'm a little, older or spoiled. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
just I didn't feel like I needed that kind of go down the river to get to the medicine for that kind of work. So that wasn't my motivation. But when I got here and started doing the work, I love my work. I love, as you do, I'm sure, I love the medicine work, and I love to see the amazing breakthroughs that happen when people come to this medicine ready, when they come prepared, when they know that this is, the medicine isn't going to heal you, and the doctor's not going to heal you, and the shaman is not going to heal you, and it's ultimately it's you that's going to
It's
heal
you.
you, and it's always that way, and but we give our power away. And so coming to this environment where that kind of philosophy is so supported, it's naturally supported here. the I mean, I literally fell in love with the community right when I got here, and the 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 condition of my heart when I got here was pretty rough, and I had helped raise two beautiful children that weren't mine, and from birth till 5 years old, and the other one was 2.5 years until she was 7 or 7.5, whatever, and completely cut off. And so, and I have a big heart. I love these kids
Oh God, I
as
could
my
only
own.
imagine, man. I mean, I saw there's so many. You guys traveled all over. There was,
We had a
back and
life
forth to
together.
see family.
Hmm.
It was deep. It was. I
Yeah,
did. There were some aspects of it I didn't understand and never and don't. It's not my point to
but
ever
I
really.
don't understand either. Still don't.
But I just
Yeah,
I always send out a love to everybody, all parties involved, always.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
there's reasons why I can definitely love all parties,
Hmm.
because my I would not be alive without Soul Quest. I would probably definitely met ayahuasca eventually. It would have found me.
Hmm.
But Soul Quest allowed me to find it when I did, and it was.
So the organization, I mean, the actual community and the people that hold the space and the medicine is Soul Quest.
Mhm,
A couple of people don't make Soul Quest. It's
mhm,
much more than just any few people. It is the combination of all of the intentions of the people that showed up there and held space with sacred intentions. And so, Soul Quest showed me a model that I'm replicating down here. And
beautiful.
I helped to build one of the largest ayahuasca churches in the world. And so I'm the one that put together the medical team, and I'm the one that designed the integration programs, and developed the church services and the online and stuff, and had an amazing team to help create this model, and the guardians and the working with facilitators, and really helping people to move forward and grow in this medicine field, and people going to get people getting training and integration from being through you, and just that whole evolution. We really brought a lot of people along the path, their own paths, but help them to come along their paths and do what you're doing, evolve and go on your own. And it was
I
a
meant
great
to I
nursery.
meant to ask you that. What do you think happened that weekend, that first weekend? So that first, me and Anthony and Ella all drank for the first time, and I don't
Oh, I
know.
remember that.
I
Yes, I
I
remember with
I
Anthony.
don't know if a meteor hit that in that moment or whatever, but it seems like a lot of people from that early beginning, and was it Anthony and Nicole, the Anthony Nemeth and
And,
Nicole.
and
Nick,
Anthony and
not
Nashala.
yeah, I'm sorry, I mispronounced her name. But
Lindsay.
yeah, Lindsay. It was Lindsay at the time. Yeah, she was all those are from the first couple days of me being, my first couple ceremonies, it seems like everybody has moved forward into creating something really amazing, and
Hmm.
not downplaying anyone else's experience or anything, but it really seems like a lot of people from that first time was
It had
it's
a big impact on people's lives. I mean, when you witness a person go through their transformation in front of your eyes, a person who gets sober, a person who says, I had the gun at home, and if this didn't work, I'm going to kill myself, or the marriage is dissolved amicably, or the marriage is repaired, and they come back together, or the children are reunited with the families because they're all on the same page now. We had families come. We had every walk of life, and I think that that's what inspires people. It's
Mhm.
effectiveness. It's like, wow, if I can do something like this and help humanity, I can't go back to this job in this corporation that is really not coming from that same intention of only positive light and good, into the world. And so people, when you start to awaken, or this emergence of your true self starts to show up, you find out that you're really an empathetic person that gives a shit about people on this planet. And how can you sell them, crap that
Yeah.
they don't need? And so
How
people.
can you do anything but spread that message? Like, that's what hit me, and ayahuasca definitely showed me a lot of
Hmm.
what showed me a lot of visions of the future, and you know,
Hmm.
it was hard, definitely hard for me to believe because, dude, when I went to Soul Quest, you know, I I had just finished this tattoo on my arm, a huge American flag, and then I did my first ayahuasca ceremony, and I come out of it, I was like, how bad is it to chop off an arm? How bad would that
Yeah,
hurt? You know?
and live with
But
it.
then I saw the message, and this is a conversation piece really of if there's if there's a guy that can talk about this brainwashing the minute the from the minute you walk in the classroom in kindergarten, from the whole time, your
Every
whole
institution.
existence,
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
You talk about Dr. Emoto and the how frequency affects water, and then apply then we're 80% water, that affects us, and then we recognize that they've been harvesting, involuntary harvesting our manifestation energy
Yep.
from the minute that we're born, and
Yep.
it's the minute that we separate from our source. Minute that we separate from our source, that's the minute that we.
Well, the minute that we perceive our separation from source, we cannot be separated from source.
Yeah.
That's the illusion, right?
It's
It ain't
so good.
happening. But the
It's
story
so
sure
good.
looks real. It sure looks real, feels real, must be real, and that's our our ego. It's separation device ultimately. So
Man, I love talking to you, Scott. Holy shit.
it's good, Scott. It's
Holy
good.
shit.
So to answer your question about when I came here, the transition was so easy. I mean, I was, of course, I was dealing with my life, and I believe that when people are called to work with the medicine, it's usually when they're in pain. It's usually when they're looking for where am I going, some direction, or they're looking for letting go of what no longer serves you. It's like what I've been doing it hasn't been working, and I need an upgrade. I need a reboot, or I need to start over, or I need to heal. I'm not okay, and I want to be okay. And so when people start to, on this plant medicine path, or when people are continuing or starting to evolve in it, peeling back those old layers, new information starts to become present. And so for me, when I came here, and the heartache or whatever you got, and all that kind of stuff, but also being disconnected from my tribe, and being disconnected from you know all my friends back home, it was really like a fresh new beginning. And these kids here, I think, had one of the biggest impacts on me, because I love kids. They're awesome. I mean, kids are fun. They're crazy. They're wonderful. I mean, and these kids are like, Mowgli in the jungle. They're like climbing all over the place, and they're fearless. And one of them came this morning with a bee sting on his face. I'm like, how'd you get stung by a bee? What were you doing? That you got stung right there by the bee. And the little kids. My casita's by the river, and so I'm always checking and making sure that when the little kids go in the river, that there's an adult with them, because the river has taken one of the children that died. And so
Oh wow.
sometimes the kids are 5 years old or 6 and 7 years old, and they want to be like daddy or the other warriors here in the tribe, and go out in the canoe and paddle around. And a couple of days ago, I was looking over there, and it's like, wait a minute, I don't see any adults. And they're in the middle of the river in a giant wooden canoe, hand carved wooden canoe. And one's 5, one is 6, and the other one is 7 years old. And I'm like, this is like Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn. This looks like a lot of fun, but it is not safe,
Yeah.
And so the kids are, I think really what uh, helped me to connect with the community. And then I started to get to know the tribal president is Jesus Dalgua, and Jesus is the embodiment, I believe, of like the Christ type consciousness. This guy is pure love, as most of the people in this type of community. They're pure, honest to God, pure. I mean, I am always amazed. Like an example with like a kid, a teenager, and this is a community where there's been a lot of poverty. I mean, huge poverty. And there are 4 other. This is the fifth of 4 other tribal communities in this territory region, and this is the only plant-centric community. And the other communities have lots of problems. And so the problems in this community are very different. That they're just like real life. People, they get pregnant. They have problems paying, the bills. They got a problem feeding themselves. They got a problem, like the medical system here is difficult for indigenous people to get the care they need. They're often thrown into their emergency rooms with medical students that don't know shit, and they end up being injured. And so I took the elder into a town yesterday. It had been 40 years since he went to the doctor. 40 years and got his blood work done. And, I mean, I built a medical clinic here, and with doctors, MDs, and nurses, and we have free treatment, free medicines, and we are busy every day. There's like people coming with, with holes that need mending and stitches, and problems with their ovaries, and issues with their pain in their back, and stuff lodged. It's like accidents, injuries, cuts, bruises, infections, and a lot of kids with beachos, worms, and parasites, and dehydration, and their viruses go by, and the flu, and people, they don't know
Is
how to treat these.
is your medical place is a mixture of homeopathic and Western?
It is an integration of the traditional medicine of the jungle and Western medicine and alternative medicine. So I have two doctorates. One of them is in alternative and complementary medicine.
Yeah,
And
man.
so, I'm doing what I always did when, my class 4 therapeutic laser, which these guys play a lot of soccer. They call it football here. Man, they're always getting hurt, and they play all out and win. A lot of times they win, but they'll have a sprained knee or leg or problem with the back, and a therapeutic laser is natural. It helps heal. Brilliant. Or I do a lot of work with mud. I take the borrow, they call it here, mud with, I use the enzymes from silkworms, mix it in there, do a mud pack after laser, do Chinese cupping or wet cupping, and, combined with, what the yachucks are doing. So, and we have traditional, Western medicine that comes in when we need to do stitches, when we need to do, antibiotics. They were using antibiotics for, like, they got pain. So they use an antibiotic for 3 days till the pain goes away. And now they just screwed themselves up for antibiotics. So education, the doctors are doing, education to the community on this is what happens when you take the medicine. This is, you don't take the medicine incorrectly. There's a proper way. So integrating that with, I was working with one of the teenagers here who got an injury on his foot. And, I'm checking on him every day. I do a house call, checking on him. And then at about day 3, when I go to check on him, his mom had packed his foot with mapacho and leaves in a preparation that's from the jungle. And I'm like, what's going on here? And it's like, and Maria would say, yeah, and I'm like, oh, perfect. You don't need more antibiotic cream. You got this, And so it's the handoff. It's like there is a time when you need this, this care, and then they take it from there.
Yeah.
Or like we had a woman that was pregnant, 7 months pregnant, and she'd been digging the fish pond. We had made a big, huge tilapia pond, huge, huge. And, she's a pregnant woman, and she's like digging and cleaning, this. It doesn't matter if you're pregnant with babies or without babies or whatever. Everyone works hard, and, and lifting, and she had severe pain in her stomach while she was pregnant, and she could barely walk. And it's like, and we didn't have a stretcher. I got a stretcher coming. We didn't have one. So called me, my drivers, and say, come on, we got an emergency. And they don't go to the hospital. They go to the Gotchuk. That's this uncle that's down the road. And he helped. He did the limpia, whatever he did. And she was fine. But he knew that. But I would have taken her to the hospital. But
Yeah.
they know what they know. And so their medicine their decision of how they care for themselves is their decision.
Yeah.
So we'll help inform them, and and many times it's an easy decision. It's like, it's a big hole and it's infected. We need to clean it, maybe debride it, and then bandage it, and then help them, maintain it until it's ready, because they'll go jump in the river, and
Yeah.
the river polluted,
Yeah.
it's polluted.
Yeah.
And, it's like, no, you can't take a bath in the river when you've got a big open, wound. And that's been part of this, is like really helping them. I get pain, lots of pain, people in pain. And, many of them want to take pastillas, ibuprofen or Tylenol or pain, medicine. And if we can resolve the pain without having to take a pill, we're going to do that. And so with my laser, with the cupping, with the wet cupping, dry cupping, with mud, I've got deep oscillation tissue therapy machine, like 10 grand for this thing that breaks up, metabolic waste. So technology combined with, paleotherapy, ancient, mud therapies and Chinese
Yeah.
medicine, and the medicine that they have in the jungle here. It's a beautiful experience, and our doctors are learning, and now we're also helping train them in the cross training. The doctors are learning about their traditional plant medicines, as well as the yachuks, the medicine men, are learning how to do sutures. They're learning how to take care. The kids are learning first aid. They're learning, what do I do when my brother is choking? What do I do when, he fell 30 meters off a cliff and his stomach is ripped open and he's starting to bleed to death?
Yeah.
And so these are important things for any culture to know. And
Yeah.
so we're helping teach those things, because these things happen, and they
That's
happen frequently in the
you know,
jungle. Shit
it's
happens.
it's an integration that a lot of people fight. They're like, "Oh, Western medicine has no business even being here,"
Yep.
but they don't understand that it's all sacred. If it's here,
It's
it's all sacred. It's about how it's used, because
right.
ayahuasca can be misused.
Yep.
Everybody can agree on that. So
Yep.
it's no
Yep.
different than you know. I'm not saying that all Western medicines, like the
No.
pharmaceutical medicines, I'm not saying all those are in good conscience, like a lot of those are in bad conscience,
Yeah.
but a lot of them are based off of plants that are in
Yeah.
South America.
That's right. That's
Almost
right.
almost all medications are based off of some plant.
Yeah,
Like,
when they take the politics out of medicine, then medicine will be more pure. But it was the Rockefellers that made it illegal for natural medicines to have any credibility, and doctors were imprisoned and arrested for suggesting hokey pokey stuff like sassafras or something. It's like, well,
yeah,
you can't do that. It's illegal. And that's when the medicine world changed. Natural medicine became outlawed, and it's like nothing like creating a mafia of the medical industry. So I mean, a couple examples that, like, for example, one of the Jesus, one of the chief, the president of the tribe, 19 years, 19 years ago, he had fallen off a mountain, ripped himself open. When they sewed him back together in the hospital after being rescued, it was really intense. They had medical students that stitched him up. For 19 years, he had sutures, nylon sutures this long, stuck in his body, and with like nubs sticking up out of his skin. And for example, last night he told me that he sleeps now without pain. For 19 years, he had pain, and every time he would lift something heavy. When you live in the jungle and you're one of the leaders, it's like you're lifting stuff that's so heavy, and it's like it's rocks, trees, canoes, kids, everything. And to always be in pain is terrible.
wow.
We did little surgical operations here on him and removed those sutures. Nylon sutures this long, stuck in the body for
Oh.
19 years. So another example was the other day. We had a guy that came here. He went to the hospital emergency room 5 years ago to have a wooden nail taken out of his foot. They didn't take the nail out of his foot. What they did was they gave him some pain medicine and said, "You'll be fine." And so 2 months later, he realizes that there's something in there, which was the wooden nail. And he, like a splinter, it pusses out, and he extracted it. Well, he didn't get all of it, but he didn't know that he didn't get all of it. And so 3 years later, he comes to us. So 5 years, he had this piece of wood splintered off from the original nail that was left in his foot. And he suffered for 5 years with this, and was afraid to go back to the hospital or back to the doctor to get it fixed. And he came when he was in pain. He was completely, needing assistance. No, ahorita, ¿ok? Regresa. Un poquito más tiempo, ¿ok, por favor? Yeah, so he had come needing help walking because he couldn't walk on his own anymore. And so sure enough, big infection. So we operated on, pulled this piece out. It took hours to get it out. And so we've got neighboring communities that bringing their whole families to the clinic and have, they've got issues. Then they are afraid. They are afraid to go to the doctors because they are treated with discrimination. They are not given equal medical treatment. They are treated like lessers, and they're on the lowest, rung of the socioeconomic ladder here, and they're treated like that. And I'm a big advocate of preserving this culture, and that means their health. And
Yeah.
so we are resolving that with competent doctors. We have 3 doctors. 2 of them have worked in other communities in the past, and so they understand. You schedule a workshop at 8 o'clock in the morning. Your chances are no one's going to show up. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's just not how it works. Maybe in Ecuador and Quito it works, but it ain't going to work in a community here because they're busy working. They got kids to feed. They've got, laundry. They've got life. They've got to, go into the concha and bring in, yuca and plantains, and they got stuff to do. And, so these communities, the word is getting out, and people are showing up, and they're getting relief. And God, it's about time. The same thing has happened with the education system. I built a school here, and I've got teachers that are volunteering from all over the world. We use a workways program, and we get amazing teachers. These kids they drop out of school. So they're being homogenized. The style of education that they're receiving doesn't match their mind, doesn't match their learning style. And so they're left behind. So they're not understanding some of the basics because they never had them in their schools. They didn't have any computers. They don't have any internet in their schools. I went to high school graduations and the kids had never used the internet. But their adversaries are rich, powerful, and completely tooled up in all of the technologies that they use to extract their territories from their resources, to kill them, to put them in jail when they protest or speak up. And so these people are starting to go, not anymore. Help us with computers, with internet, with schools, with teachers. Help us learn English, but we're also teaching their elders are teaching Quechua in the schools, and we're doing individual one-on-one private learning for the teenagers who are dropping out of the school system because it's nationalistic, globalistic, and it doesn't and it breaks their culture into you're ignorant, you're backwards, and it's insignificant. So thousands of pieces of history and knowledge are not being conveyed to these children except for only in the home. So the teachers here, like one of the students that dropped out of school, is lost in class. Really smart kid, 15 years old, dropped out of school. And so we're like, no, this kid needs an education. And so our teachers are taking one-on-one time with him. He wants to learn art, which of course, other side of the brain. He's not good with the math. And, and some of those, he wants to know about science. He didn't know, 15 years old, he'd never seen a microscope. He doesn't know what a microscope is. And so he's learning about microscopes now. Windows of the world are opening up because these teachers are spending one-on-one time with these students and helping them to find their learning style that matches them, that's going to reach them in a context that fits them, not make them fit into this square box because they're round, they're not square. And so this is what the Sacha Wasi Tribal Learning Center is about, is making sure that the curriculum for these students is unique and individual for each student. Now, there are classrooms for the other kids that, they learn well in that particular, format. That's fine. But there's others that don't. And we do the adult classes too, that same way, one-on-one, so that their schedules are, difficult. And so we've got to be flexible, and they love it. They're learning. I hear them talking, and they'll be trying to speak English or learning about. We had a globe, and we have teachers that come from from Poland or from France or from United Kingdom or from the United States or from Denmark or Australia, and they're asking, where are you from? And so we show them on the map. So suddenly they have a perspective on different countries. They didn't know where Ecuador was on the globe. And so, we're like, okay, it's down here. Here's the United States. Here's Florida, where Lorena lives, and Dora. Here's where I'm from. And then down here there's South America, and there's Ecuador. And it's like, it's so small. It's so small. And it's like, well, you're tiny people. So, it's you guys, but no clue. And no clue. They thought the pyramids were in the United States. And so information about the world will help them when they're dealing with cultural tourism. It's very important for them to know a little bit about the guests that are coming. Like when our Russians come, or came. Where is Russia? What is that? China, where is that? These other things, India. And, we have a teacher coming from Newfoundland. Where's Newfoundland? Well, I happen to be there, so I can say where, what it's like and that sort of thing. But these are some of the objectives that we're doing in the Tribal Learning Center, is to help these children or help these students, young and old, to be prepared to be in this modern world.
Yeah.
They were left behind. The government left them behind. The government did nothing for them. And so now they're straddling two worlds. They were spending 6 hours a day in the river doing laundry. You have a retreat here with 17 people. That's hours and hours and hours a day in the river doing laundry. Okay, so washer and dryer, now that's all done. Now they have time to take English class. They have time to learn spreadsheets about business. The leaders are learning about business, economics. They did not know that if you charge $25 for this and it costs you $25, you didn't make any money. And it's like those concepts, they're starting to understand and starting to get, all of the money that comes in for the retreats goes to them. And the expenses, like, for example, if someone comes to do a ceremony or a retreat here, I do integration, I make $100 in a day. My fee is $195 an hour for my private clients. So I'm working as a gift, and $100 a day is a minimum, is a small amount when you think about the cost of an entire retreat. A retreat might be $3,500, or the private ones that I do are like $7,500 for 15-day or whatever, really intense, a psychedelic assisted, intense experience, and they make the money. I don't need the money. I'm okay. I mean, enough to buy them, toys and gifts and chupetes, which are lollipops and this stuff. But the idea is they are on the road to economic self-sufficiency. They starved during the pandemic. They starved. The young men would go into town looking for jobs, and they would get jobs that were the equivalent of like slave labor. $5 a day, 17 hours in that day. And they couldn't go home and see their family. It was terrible.
That's
So it was
horrible.
like, never again, never again. And so we built chicken coops with 200 chickens. We built the tilapia pond with fish. They were building a new market, a community market where they're going to sell groceries to their own people and to the neighbors, where
That's
they're
beautiful.
renting space. They're learning about self-sufficiency. Their pride was taken from them from so many forces that of modernization, globalization, education, the medical system, the education, all of this together, it disempowered them. And so these people are rising up, and they're finding their way, and like new road that's being put in. It's amazing. These people are coming into their energy, they're coming into their stride, and I am so blessed to be able to help guide and help teach, some of the things that your father taught you, that our fathers and our mothers and our teachers taught us about, the nature of business, the nature of the world. And so it's an interesting thing. In order for them to survive, if they don't survive, if they don't survive economically, it'll be the end of their culture in this next generation. And I'm like, that's not going to happen, not while I'm alive. So
Yeah.
that's what our initiatives have been, is in supporting that, because if their children don't have an economy here, they're going to go into town and flip burgers to survive. And that's the end of their culture. So they're all learning Quechua. The language is the connection to the lineage. So they all are learning. The kids are learning how to read and write and spell and speak in Quechua, as well as the teachers that are here. And I'm just, doing really well to be, speaking Spanish. So Quechua, I'm like, I don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to take up another language at this moment. But I swear to God, when I get this Spanish thing down, I'm gonna try this Quechua, because I don't know, old dog, new tricks thing. I don't know quite what it is, but I am like, I got confused with Spanish when I started learning some French, and then I was like,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I got too many other things on my plate right now, but I will someday pick up more Quechua.
So what is there a local prophecy, like the local spiritual practice? Do they have their own prophecy of what's happening in the world? Do they believe, this is the awakening of man, or they just see it as a normal process?
I don't know that answer. I don't know. That would be a good question, for one of the elders in the tribe. You know, Originally, uh, their attitude has been, we don't talk about these things to outsiders. It's private. It's ours, because of the extractive nature of outsiders. When the
Yeah, yeah.
Europeans came and they take everything, and it's the appropriation of their culture. And so
It's a
there are some things that it's not easy to get those answers.
yeah, it's
That
a very
Pachamama is everything to them.
sure. It's a very interesting area, It's when you went down there, I was not surprised at all, because it was like I see life through different layers. I see all different layers at the same time sometimes, and you going to Ecuador is very spoke out to me very strongly, as he's finding his balance, and
Mm.
that I'm really interested. I can't wait to come down and visit, and do ceremony down there with you. But in that area, really the balance, the 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 entire gray area of the whole earth is Ecuador.
Mm.
It's the center line. And
It's
in
beautiful here. It's beautiful, and it's pristine. The jungles are pristine, and nothing like that.
you're breaking up just a tad now. I don't know what's maybe things are changing around there or
Oh,
whatever,
it's
but
the solar flares.
so I got your contact on there, the Sawashi
Sachawasi.org. Great. Yeah,
org.
thank you.
So what is the biggest need? Like if someone's got an itch in their pocket right now and they're like, I want to fill a need for you guys. What is your biggest need right now?
So I would say the one of the biggest needs is to help support both the clinic and the Sachawasi Tribal Learning Center. So um, we just popped out of there for a second.
Yeah, it might be
So
a solar flare for real, man. I'm
yeah,
just
yeah,
looking
yeah.
outside.
Well, that was um, yeah, hopefully we'll keep the connection. But I mean, I've been personally, like, buying the food and buying the all the medicines to stock the pharmacy. And there are some people that are making donations, and so every little bit counts.
Yeah,
So it costs we provide all room and board for volunteers, and so providing donations to support the school, help pay. I pay for the internet here. It's $150 a month for the internet, and so I have to work with my clients in order to pay for these things. For several months, we didn't have enough food for the community. And so that was like $3,000 a month that I was, pulling together
Hmm.
to help support the community. And so, it's things like that that are very helpful. There's a donation page on the sachawasi.org site, and also a link to the retreat center as well. So,
You
if
you guys
anybody
are
has,
you guys are actively running retreats?
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah. So yeah, it's a community that is ayahuasca centric, and so they've been delivering the medicine in their lineage for over 50 generations. So they got that down. They're brilliant at that.
Yeah,
Their
I
ceremonies
bet.
are beautiful, and but the support in the medical clinic is as well. So that's another area, because the medicines, although the medicines here are a lot less expensive than in the United States, we go through a lot of medicine. And so I'm, putting out hundreds of dollars every month.
Yeah,
And so, it's not for me, it's for them.
yeah,
And if nobody else is going to put in the money, I am. And I am, because I love these people with my heart and soul, and it needs to be done. If someone is in trouble, I take them to the hospital and sit with them personally, and the hospital is free, but the medicine is not. And so I take, make sure that they have everything they need. Go to get the X-rays, pay for that, or the ultrasounds, pay for that. These things, procedures like that. So our clinic is supported by donations and from volunteers like me. So I'm just one of the volunteers here, like others. So we are building initiatives so that this community is self-supporting. So donations one day, I hope, are not going to be required. They're just wonderful support. But
yeah,
this is a community that is coming into their stride. So we spend hundreds of dollars, hundreds of, if not thousands of dollars, on like uh, supplies and materials. So chainsaw breaks, you got to have a chainsaw. So got to
yeah.
replace the chainsaw. They use weed whackers here to help control. They don't have mowers, but to help control the overgrowth. So the weed whacker, it's $1,800 for one of those.
Yeah.
Feeding the chickens, the chicken food, that's $180 a month, sometimes more.
But
Vitamins and that sort of thing.
when I lived in Florida before, well, actually, when I first started going to Soul Quest, we owned a boat. So I know that you guys have a lot of boats, and that's a lot. I know that's was it
The
boat,
motors, yep.
but breakout in our thousand. That's what boat stands for. Breakout in our thousand. So
Yep.
yeah,
It's
I
always,
know.
yeah, money's always going. It's like go easy come, easy go. Yep.
Yeah, it's energy. I know, I
Absolutely.
know, I know personally. Sacred Journeys Within's going to send some money for your restoration project with ayahuasca.
Dude.
I definitely, always whenever I have a chance to send funds back down there and eventually reach ayahuasca or anything connected to it, definitely
And
it's
yeah,
in my heart. I wouldn't be here,
thank
man. Like
you.
I would not be here.
Absolutely.
I would not
Yeah.
be here without it.
Yeah. Well,
And
this was a big surprise to me that these people are suffering. I mean, I went to the World Ayahuasca Conference in Girona, Spain in 2019, and it's all exciting. It's and Dennis McKenna and things like that. Interesting to meet people like that and to see the world in that sense. But I remember one of the presenters was speaking about the plight of the indigenous, and I was like, "What are indigenous? What's that all about?" And I heard things about extractive industries and deforestation and the rapid destruction. And when you have deforestation happening at 150 acres a minute, you're talking about there are specimens, there are species of plants and animals and other life forms that have not even been discovered yet, that are being lost lost
tens of
forever,
thousands of species lose it. Just tens of thousands of
forever,
species just
forever.
vanishing, man.
That's right. And so with that is also the indigenous, because they live in these jungles that are being deforested. And so this is one of the areas that I'm really passionate about, is because to preserve this culture. These guys are the guardians of the rainforest. These guys are the ones that are the frontline protectors of the jungle, which is the lungs of the planet. With the, do you know how much water comes into this world from trees through the process of evaporation into the atmosphere that creates the clouds? It affects the currents in the ocean. Like
All of
none
that.
of us are immune to the effects of the Amazon. It is an essential part of our healthy, Mother Earth. And so we're looking at, you know, making sure. I'm especially like fond of this tribe, but I really want to be a blowhorn for this, this incredible oversight. I don't think enough people really understand how cultural tourism is affected by politics in the world. The cultural tourism, of course, during the pandemic, it killed it destroyed so much. And so these people are just now starting to eat. They starve. They're just now starting to, have some money to be able to move forward, because people are starting to come and they're starting to do the retreats again and having visitors. It's like there the work with the medicine here is in the place where the medicine comes from. I mean, Ecuador and Colombia and Peru. I mean, this is and Brazil. I mean, this is the home of this sacred plant medicine. And so for those of us who are on the plant medicine path, we should be concerned about our the source and the sustainability of our involvement with this medicine. Are we contributing to help preserve this? Because we won't have this medicine in the future. And ayahuasca is so important in our world, in our evolution. I mean, this world is really messed up. And the more that we can
There's,
do to
she
support this process of awakening, ascension,
she's
you
such a
know.
catalyst for change, dude. Like
Mm.
I have some people that's been in ceremony with me in the chat room right now, Cardell. He had mind blown, mind blowing ceremonies and
Life changing.
life changing. Well, I think I know he's listening right now, so I'm gonna tell you this quick story, and he's gonna laugh. So when he come to me, he had this nick. He was a DJ, so he's had this nickname of the Dirty Cajun because he's from Louisiana. And after coming out of ceremony, I was like, "Man, you need to change your name to the Hippie Cajun." And he has, and this is his name now, the Hippie
Hippie
Cajun.
Cajun, I
And
love it.
he's a very dear friend of mine, and just he's just one of the many examples of this medicine. How it just
Absolutely.
it creates huge ripples in space time. And
Yeah.
if we're not
Changes.
if we're not protecting where it comes from, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
What the fuck are we doing if we're not if we're
All
not
take,
if we're
no
not
give.
trying? You
Yeah.
know,
And
and
a part of it is innocence. I mean, we're really not connected. We don't understand. Like when I was in Spain and listening to this woman speak, I had no idea. Hearing, pick up what we can. I think we're just signal here is a little funny, but we do what we
yeah,
can. And so little by little. And so we want to remind everybody, that we're all ready. And so I'm here. And one of the things that we're doing here is we had the Silquest Church of the Mother Earth. Well, we're having the Sacha Wasi Church of the Sacred Plants. And this is a new church I bought big chunk of land, and we're building a luxury resort with all kinds of options that'll be different than what we've had in the past, like no other church. But we'll have the um, uh, it'll also have a residential option, so people can have a house. They can have casitas, and rent them. We have a hotel, a 5-star hotel on the adjacent property that is going to manage and run the facilities. And the architects are in the design phase right now, where the road is being, figure out where the roads is going in. And so this will be the new church home. And, we're talking about beauty and views of the Amazon and access to, people that, that it'll have a helipad and, access. So
Dude,
it'll
I'm about
be
to go there. I'm about to go to the airport right now.
I
I'm
can't
on the way
wait
to the
either.
airport. I'm on the way to the airport, man.
Every villa and every casita has its own pool, jacuzzi, and so I think about that. We had so many people at SoulQuest that would say, can I live here? And it's like, so the idea of
Yeah.
having a residential medicine centric community that, so I buy a house, or I buy a cabana for, I don't know, $100,000. And I can, when I'm not there using it for my own personal ceremony work, I can make it available for rent. So it pays for itself in a couple of years. So the idea is, to build it so that it is supportive of this modern community that we have. We're in the jungle. That doesn't mean that we can't have, comfort and luxury. And at the same time, community, that we have a medical center and, spas and classrooms. And, when someone has cancer, or when someone is dealing with a really serious illness, we need the right kind of medical support when that person's coming to work with the mushrooms.
Yeah.
Or you have a disease that says, okay, the doctors say that, I've got 5 years, maybe I got 2 years, and it's like, screw that, I'm going to fix this. And so this is going to be a place medically where a person can come and have the sanitary environment where they'll need to have the medical staff that they need to learn about coffee enemas, about juicing. Their kitchen, the design has got a
Oh my God. I promised my wife that I would ask you about coffee enemas. I promised my wife I would ask you about
amazing.
coffee enemas.
Yeah, it's illegal to cure cancer in the United States, and the world has, really a conspiracy against that.
And
And
like,
someone's probably going to put a hit out on me for saying that. But,
it's
when we come,
illegal to cure cancer. That's
it
awesome.
is. It is. And so the idea is, for those people that, embracing Gerson techniques, combined with plant medicine, you need to have like a place to stay for a month. You need to have a place to stay maybe for 2 months. And may it be beautiful. May it be filled with serenity and harmony and beauty. Who says that poverty is essential? It's like it goes hand in hand with being in the jungle. It's not.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with having the comfort that you need, because when you're really sick, or when you're really working with, overcoming, serious problem, you need to have what you need. It's all part of the healing. And so that's the vision. We've got the designs, the plans. They're in the pretty soon. They're going to be 3D renderings, and we're going to be able to see. The engineers have been working like crazy, and so I'm really happy with the direction. I know that the Kichwa, the tribal council here, is going to be guiding the church doctrine, making sure that it's consistent with the philosophies of the Amazon, the philosophies that are congruent with this medicine work. So you remember we used to go to SoulQuest, and you'd stay in one of those little bungalows or cabins, and you had options. You can stay in the place for $100 a night, or you can stay in the place. So we'll have a villa with 3 or 4 bedrooms. You have villas with 2 bedrooms. You get to pick. And the church doesn't own anything. Churches don't own anything. It's the developers. They have those responsibilities and the management and all that. So the church doesn't get corrupted by money. The church has its responsibility of ministering and providing the
I
the
think
the the support to the people. And so I don't want to be involved in hotel business. I don't want to be involved in, cleaning
yeah.
rooms and that kind of stuff. But this will provide jobs for many of the indigenous people in this community. and then to be able to go down into in the Maloka with the casitas, and for volunteers that are looking for, training on, how to be a facilitator in our new church service that's going to be starting again online. It's our old team, the folks that we had at SoulQuest doing our Sunday morning church service when I was there. All of the folks are back online. We're all on the same team again, and we are going to continue to evolve what we started there at SoulQuest. And we have a new addition to this. We have um, Jules Henry Rivers, who is the author of Ayahuasca Wisdom. And Jules is going to be doing like the psychedelic spotlights that we did with Ron McNutt. Ron's going to be doing the spotlights again, which is so important. There are I talk to kids, we get people that come here from the States for retreats and stuff. And I'll be talking to them about, Timothy Leary or something like that. I'm like, who? And I'm like, oh my God, it's so important that, that the younger generations learn about, all this Huxley and Leary and just the history of our psychedelic movement. And Ron's the master of that. And so we have Stephen Tuig that's going to be involved in the shadow work that he does is brilliant. He was with Tony Robbins for years. I mean, we're talking about really cool Penny Crean, talking about Jan Marie and David Etzel, talking about, this is so exciting. Rachel Jameson and Tyler Fink. Like Tyler is like, and Rachel is like, they have a new baby. And so, these are the folks that we've had. We're still going to be embracing in the core of what we do, the Ayahuasca Manifesto, which is so important to me and dear to that. So there's going to be an evolution of the church service that we were doing, and we're going to do it better. We're going to have, more fun, and it's not going to be real long. We're not going to keep going for 2 hours or whatever it is. It's like in and out, and trim it up and make it a little more user friendly. And hopefully in this process, we'll continue to be able to support people on their path of self-awakening, the path back to the true self. And that's the key. That's what I'm all about. How good is that for a career? I love it.
Man, I think if you're not on that path, like, you're on the wrong path. I think that's really the only path right now is the path back to yourself. And if you're dealing with
But
anyone,
isn't that what a circuitous path does anyway? It brings us back to,
I mean, I
all
think that,
roads lead to Rome,
yeah, man, all roads leads back to yourself.
Yeah. So we'll
It's
get there. And so when we have a community, and this is what it's about, like your audience is a community, and we are stronger together when we share. Like, you're sharing your stories, it provides inspiration for others. I know I was afraid to come to the jungle thinking that all these things,
it,
snakes, craziness, I
it
don't
gives
experience that here.
it gives permission people it gives people
People permission.
permission it gives people permission to express themselves and share their stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like um you know ayahuasca is a big subject on my show, but also star being, ET.
Yeah.
Basically everything that's been a part of my ascension path is part of
You
Eagle's
mean
Nest.
our creators?
Yeah, our brothers, our sisters are, if you once you dissolve the illusion of time and the linear timeline, it's a whole lot easier to understand. But
That's another story. That's a
there's
whole nother story.
that's a whole nother show. But when I have Gus on here that talk about their stories, I had Kevin Day on here. He was on the Nimitz during the famous Tic Tac incident that was on all over the news. He was the first one. He was in the radar room. He was operating the radar, and he was the first one to see them and raise his hand, saying, "Hey, there's an anomaly here." So I
Something's
had
going
him
on.
on. I had him on the show, and now that happened in 2004, and he talked about he went through years of depression and things like that, and every time he brung it up, someone would talk about it. But now he's like, now it's validated and he can talk
Mm-hmm.
about it. But
Mm-hmm.
in turn, that allows other people to process, not only talk about their experiences, but ultimately process and
Right.
integrate that experience.
Sure. Sure.
Because any experience with ET, whether it be in a vision, whether it be outside smoking some tobacco at night, looking at the stars, or in a dream
Mm.
space, it's all interdimensional contact, and it's a lesson. Every experience is a lesson that you need to integrate. So I
Yeah.
truly believe that. And
And when
this,
somebody starts to talk about that, it gives you a chance to like find the vernacular to put it into words what you're experiencing. It's like the
yeah,
child trafficking that's going on. People don't
yeah,
really relate to it until they listen to the story of the girl, the young girl who was trafficked, and
yeah,
who these famous people are that raped her when she was a child, and how it's not real until you hear it like from somebody that's authentic. And
yeah,
then you start to go, oh, there's a whole nother story out there I didn't know about.
yeah,
Like with the ET stuff, it's like, not all the ETs are friendly.
yeah.
The little bastards. I don't want anything to do with those little guys.
it's
Little
it's it's
drones or
it's all
whatever.
it's all sacred, and I approach it all with unconditional love, and that just make things a whole lot
Yeah,
easier. But
yeah. Got to know
because
when to duck.
I just I know what vibration to hold on to, and I and
Mhm.
where if I hold on to that vibration, all that is a whole nother story.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, it's just man, we could go. What's the local thoughts about ETs? Like, what's the star people? They're the
Yeah.
the crater, a crater story that's attached to that, or
Um, well, not that I know that's connected to the Quechua. We'd have to get some of them on with a translator to really drill down on that. We'll probably do that in our church service. But just in the um, general sense, the star beings, higher beings, whatever it is, all came together and shared with us their DNA from the advanced civilizations in the world, and put them all into us, the greatest peace treaty of the universe in human existence. And then supposedly after the flood and with Noah, we were not all wiped out. Or we were revived somehow with these, technologies. And sure enough, they clipped our DNA. We didn't have the 24 strands of DNA or the 12 from the originals. The cedars, they were clipped, and so two strands of DNA and 98 or 80% junk in the rest. And it's like, it ain't junk. It might be like books from the library that were pushed off the shelf and they're in a big pile, but they're there.
yeah, yeah.
And we got all this DNA that is from our star origins. And I think are on the verge of this massive awakening. And
I'm
medicine
so with it, man.
medicine is helping us to realign our DNA, if you will, and wake up to the truth, and and usher in you know that it's like suddenly it's like the internet, or when we got cell phones. I mean, they just got cell phones here 8 months ago. I mean, they're like, I'm like 30 years with Sprint, you know
Yeah, weird.
but in our information about our cosmic origins, I mean, we're not even at first contact. I mean, we're not ready. How many more Star Trek episodes do we need before we might be close?
I think we're getting there. I think the general consensus, people definitely, a lot of people needed to hear the government say that they're real, and
Yeah.
and and
Well,
and
when you
not,
have the Pentagon release the
yeah,
videos and
yeah,
stuff, you're like, okay, so why would they do that? I mean,
yeah,
perhaps they're going to create a false flag with some big alien invention with holographic 3D imagery, and we're all going to believe it. Like things that happen in big buildings that suddenly destroyed,
yeah.
whatever those buildings are called.
I I go for it on this. I go for it on this.
CGI.
I go for it on this show, man, because I think the last show I had Laura Eisenhower on, and our first subject we talked about was the Queen's death and what it meant for the world. So we we stepped right off the high board right away on
Ah,
that one. So
yeah. And so and I have a little paranoia in the back of my mind that, I mean, I've lived with, death threats for some time before. And I know what that feels like when you're being targeted.
Yeah.
And especially, what I went through with the DEA, it's kind of like out there saying, wonder in this current kind of place where things seem to be going into a more of a police state, an Orwellian kind of government, it really makes me concerned about free speech and being able to talk about stuff that they call you crazy for talking about. I'm a little
No,
nervous about
I
coming
totally,
out.
I totally get it. I've always, whenever I've checked in with myself or you know source or whatever, I've always got the message just to let it rip. Like so,
Let her rip.
I
Yeah.
let it rip, man. Like
Yeah.
because
But I think that we're living in a time that's kind of like, 1941.5, right before Nazi Germany became,
mhm,
this real force that was empowered to, take all the rights away from people. And, white males are in, if you read the Reset by Klaus Schwab, you can buy it on Amazon. 5 billion useless eaters are targeted. And, we're looking at, the Western Europe and the United States is the target with pandemics and food shortages and all
mhm.
these, bioweapons and, wars and things like that. And so, it's like these are a lot of the leaders that are in the World Economic Forum that are like, this is the direction we're going in. It's AI to replace humans. Transhumanism is the
Well,
trend.
there's the control is definitely the grip is they're losing their grip on the situation, and I think I think they're tightening their grip, trying to hold on at the
Desperate
last moment.
people, desperate people, and I
Desperate
hope that
people.
the spirit of humanity, stands up, and there will be many that die from the pharmaceutical protocol that was pushed on the world, which is tragic. And when there's probably medical technology that will reverse that kind of stuff, the antidote must show up. And
Yeah.
so I mean, I had a phone call from a gentleman yesterday who he and his wife are in tears. This is a brilliant man, highly intelligent, and who is really grieving the fate of the world at the rate. You've got December 13th coming up, which is supposedly the end of the currency as we know it, and Biden currency, or the whatever it is, the central bank cryptocurrency is going to, one day you're going to wake up December 13th, they say, according to the last $1 trillion spending bill that was rammed through the House, where there's no more no more dollars. No more dollars. Your bank is going to take your money, and you're no longer going to have dollars. It's going to be crypto dollars.
Well,
And
there's only so long you can just print off paper and it has no backing. There's only so long you can do that.
we're
That
so sheepish. We're such sheep. We're like, oh well, yeah, okay,
it must be
okay,
it must be
vote him
back.
in again.
It must be backed with gold or diamonds or something
No,
other than just
had
paper.
Roosevelt come out and say, no gold. It's illegal for citizens to have gold. We will take all your gold. And okay, you know, these things in history, we're it's like, I think we're more aware, and so you
We're
have
getting
great
there.
great
We're
media
getting
great
there.
media efforts to tell everybody, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, and it's like they're all coming true, and then
Yeah.
you're sitting there going,
It, it
okay,
it's not a conspiracy if it turns out to be a truth.
yeah,
It's just foreshadowing or someone being psychics, like
oh
just
yeah.
it's crazy. But
So it's important. It's
yeah, man.
important to have good critical reasoning skills and learning to think on your own. And if you trust the government, I know of some swampland that's for sale in this Louisiana for your friend down there. It's like,
Cardell.
eh, it's like, seriously, you trust the government? It's like, trust the institutions? It's like, no. It's like, wake up. It's like, I don't trust I don't trust anymore. And
You
I
know,
don't
we
trust religion. I don't trust religion. I don't trust the government. I don't trust the medical system. I don't trust the
all
political
of it,
system.
all of it,
I don't
man.
trust any of the educational systems. They've all been infiltrated and ruined. And
I
so,
believe it.
somebody's going to put a hit out on me. I say, okay, okay, well, at least I got that out. But this is the world that we're living in. It's up to us to be brave and change that. And medicine is
Yeah,
one of the probably the most important ways to have a direct experience with the truth.
yeah,
And so the truth is you understand it, not as as you have to know on your own. I
yeah,
didn't know about reptilians until I had my experience with the 20 grams of mushrooms and dealing with them firsthand. And it's like unbelievable. And then I
yeah,
go back to Google it and going, this is, I mean, I never heard of this. And you're going into it, it's like, this is stuff in my journey. This
yeah.
is, wow. You know, that's interesting to me. It's like when we start to, you know, how much of it's a psyop and how much of it is real and how much of it is imagination. It's like only in your inner core do you have the resonance that says, no, the Queen of England. What is the big story? She's a shape-shifting reptilian. It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, the royal lineage of blood lines and all that kind of stuff, and the satanic worship and the Catholic Church and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, slaughtering the sacred cow. You're gonna, and that's what they want. They want you to be afraid that you're going to be, you know, these three-letter agencies are going to come in and yank you out. Like in Nazi Germany, they went after the doctors first. They got the thinkers, they got the people that were influencers out. You know,
Yeah,
like they
but
tried
I
to do
mean,
in social media,
what's the worst thing they're gonna do at this point?
kill us.
They're gonna take your body away
Yeah,
because I'm
and
not
then
dead. Because I'm not
or they'll
dead.
take you and imprison you, and they'll try to suck out your soul, and put it in a drone, you know.
That would be something. That's really the only way they could really get me is take me in and really
Yeah.
really dissect my mind or
I had that in a journey with the 20 grams, and I fought and fought and fought, and they were like, and my facilitator said, "Well, ask them what they want." And I was like, I will never surrender. I will never surrender to you. I'm never, never, never. You're dark, evil, dark. Never, never. And it's like, and that was the test. That's what they wanted to know. And then it was like, okay, here's what's going on. And it was like, okay, like what side are you on? You know, is
way
if
cool.
there's a side, there's the side
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
light
yeah,
and the
yeah.
dark, and yet they're functions of the same. Source gives creation all the power of free will. You can create illusion, you can create hell, or you can create magnificence and beauty and love and all that kumbaya crap that we all want. That's the good stuff. But we're so,
The trick is we're living in a co-creation with a bunch of other people. And
yeah.
we just need to bring everybody else into our vibration and
That's right.
yeah.
And
I really believe that.
like I've said many times, we all remember our nursery, nursery school songs, like row, row, row your boat. Remember how that goes? Row, row, row your
Johnny,
boat.
Johnny, down the stream. Life is but a dream.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
butt dream. Our heads are so far up our asses that we don't know what's true. And so we do this medicine, and it's, when you have medicine work, there's a lot of work down below. And all of a sudden, you hear the uncorking sound, and our heads being extracted out of our asses. And oh my God, the view from out here is so
yeah.
much better.
Yeah, man.
And it's like, and then something happens and boom, heads back up our ass because we're believing in the propaganda of the ego, and the ego is just trying to protect us from everything fearful, which is not divine. Which is like, you should be afraid of it. It's not true. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting paradigm in our human experience, where we're trying to navigate as we wake up going, what is real, what's not real, And so
Mhm.
community is really the place for us to bounce off these crazy ideas and say, so I'm not quite understanding this dualism thing. How can I be both, spirit and human? And it's like, well, hey, it's like this. Your ego needs pretty things. Your ego needs to be well fed. Your ego needs to feel comfortable. It needs to have these things because without it, it ain't happy. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, right? If daddy's not happy, ain't nobody happy. So our egos are important to understand its nature and what it requires because it's all about survival, right?
I think people need to realize too. A lot of people think that they need to uh, totally totally get rid of their ego altogether, and
No, no.
the ego is a vital part of moving forward. But just like any medicine or anything, it needs to have its balance. You
Well,
know.
think about the ego is your construct. You created your ego, and it's really a connection with all of your inner children that have been disassociated from your source, from your core, your soul. It separates, and the separation from trauma takes you into this other reality of fear and protection and separation, which is the ego. And so the ego needs to be tamed. It's like a wild dog, and it only knows fear, and there's a
Yeah.
leaf and it's blowing, and so we want to tame the ego and integrate the ego because this is like the instruments on our vehicle. That little red light goes on and says my stomach is empty, and I'm hangry, and so you
But
better feed, you better
but
feed.
but my teenage stepdaughter calls those emojis.
Emojis. When I get an
Yeah,
emoji.
the first time a light come on, because we gave her our old vehicle, to use. She come in, she's like, the emoji come on, it looks like a little engine.
The emojis.
It's just
I think
funny.
that means you need oil or
Yeah,
a
or
tuna,
whatever.
right?
Some
But it's the
I forgot what it
same.
was. Yeah, yeah,
It's the same with our system.
yeah.
It's just that we don't understand its language. We it's not supposed to control us. Like
Hmm.
it's not supposed it's like the tail wagging the dog, right? We master our physical body and our addictions and our cravings and our appetites. We master our emotional body with all of its, fears and damage and sadness and depression. We master our mental body with all of its belief in Santa Claus and all that, confirms whatever it believes, whether it's true or not. When we master that, and then we master our spirituality, right? When we master all those aspects of ourselves, then our lives are a masterpiece,
Hmm.
right? And the emphasis is on mastering peace.
Hmm.
It's like in the Bhagavad Gita, it talks about, the wind. It's like, try containing the wind, try controlling the wind. You can't. It's its nature. The
Hmm.
mind is like this, right? We have to understand its nature. And when we understand its nature, then we don't have to be reactive to it. Like Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He says, when they take everything away from you, they take your hair, they take your name and they tattoo your number on your arm, and they kill your family, take your family from you, and they take your life's work, they take your liberty away. And it's like after they take everything away from you, all you have left is how you choose to respond to the circumstances in your life. You're a chooser. Every moment, choose, 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 choose.
I
And
preach it all the time, bro. I
it's
preach it
all
all
that
the time.
choice.
The the reality is perfection. The only variable in that is your perception.
Yeah,
If you can align your perception with the perfection, the divinity in every moment, you will start to live in that divinity. Like
right.
I really.
Waking up in the program, knowing that, okay, so this is the program. So when people get really close to me, I start to get nervous and want to bail, right? Because I have a core belief that I'm bad. So if anybody gets too close to me, they're going to discover that I'm a piece of shit. So I'm going to sabotage this relationship before they find out, the truth about me. Duh, 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 because I learned that in childhood. My own parents didn't love me, so I'm unlovable. So I'm going to keep that a secret and super achieve and be super controlling, right? And then, you're going to think I'm great, and then you're going to want to change the orbit of the earth to like be my wife or husband or whatever are. And then it's like they get close to you, and then you're afraid they're going to see you, and then sabotage, and boom, right? These are the inner workings of the ego, and it's
Hmm.
like these are the signs in the program that we're going to wake up to, and say, so I'm in the program, but now I'm aware of the program. Like Dr. Joe
Th-
Dispenza is
th- th-
brilliant
these
with
are
that stuff.
these are our check engine lights. You know,
It's
like Dolores Cannon talks about everything on our
yes.
body from her studies on in QHHT. Every mark, everything that's happened in your life, whether it be a stub toe or whether you lose your legs in a car accident, to your tattoos, it's all a message that really your higher self is trying to tell you
Mm-hmm.
by intuitively making these things happen to show you a pain in the back, a pain in the knee. You
Right.
know, if you're going into a bar and your knees hurt every time you walk into a bar, but they don't hurt when you walk out, like maybe you shouldn't be walking into a bar, you know, or just things like
Right.
that. People don't,
Yeah.
it's a language that is being cultivated. It's an intuition,
Yeah.
telepathy, or whatever you want to call it, but it's always been there, and you just have to you just have to open your eyes that maybe telepathy isn't going to look the way you think it's going to look. Maybe it's going to look totally different, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, that's why it's so important to be, when we're on a plant medicine path, to have a trusted community where, you're not going to take everything that people offer. You're going to, it's like, like the spaghetti, when it's ready, it sticks to the wall. It's like the stuff that sticks is going to be the stuff that works for you.
Yeah,
But it's and in your and in your we're back and
yeah, we're back.
in your soul, that's your internal guidance system. It's
Yeah.
like what says plus or minus, yes or no.
Hmm.
Wisdom knows, right? It knows. So that's the idea. We need to tune in. We need to find, a connection with that core,
Yeah.
because our core is the source, the great prime creator. We share that equally. We are as the individual expressions
Yeah,
of
man.
that core energy of life.
You know
You know, I
the
don't.
the lesson of the mirror is the lesson that we go through now, and a lot of
Mm,
people ask me, like, what would you call yours, especially after ceremony with me. They're like, okay, now what do you call yourself? There's something different about you. What do you call yourself? And they're
do.
expecting it. They're expecting something way out off the wall. Most of the time I says Drew, but if it's anything past Drew, I'm just a mirror, because
Mm,
anything that you see in me in ceremony, like anything that you see in the stories of me, or people, people have visions of me in ceremony, and I've had been seen by a lot of different things. That's if my ego wasn't in check, I could have ran with a lot of it.
yeah.
But ultimately it's a mirror. If you see a vision of me, it's ultimately something inside you,
Mhm.
and it's a
Thought
reflection.
doesn't
it's
leave its source. Yeah.
it's a reflection of anything that's in you. So one thing that I like to do, I take a pendulum and I show people how to transmute an object of just their words,
Mm,
using, or have someone hold a pendulum and I put a lighter down. And
mm,
this will be a like hour before I serve the medicine. And
mm,
I have someone else to hold the pendulum. Have them hold over a lighter, and we start talking about the lighter as a Bic lighter made of plastic. It has propane in it, it has a spring in it, all this other stuff, and the pendulum won't move. And then we start talking in a different sense. And the lighter is a representation of the central fire. It's used to light the candles in the ceremony.
mm.
It's used to light the mapacho.
Instrument of light.
It's an instrumental light, and then the pendulum starts to move. And I was like, this is an introduction to telepathy, and this is how you can
Mm,
transmute an object just with our words.
mm,
And then I served the medicine. And then that's
mhm.
they had that in
Love
their
it.
mind going in, that the magic is already here. And then they
Mm,
go in and see then they go in and see the magic, and then it all comes together in this beautiful
mm.
picture that they see. So
Sounds like you're doing amazing work, brother.
it started off with you, man, and you helped facilitate that beginning. So
I love that.
it's
I love that. You know, I just love that whole thing that, you know, so many of us came together at this, you know, in this experience at the church, and and we've grown, we've changed, we've evolved, we've gathered, we've separated, we've, you know, we've moved on, you know, we've taken on and onward and upward, and you know, that's the whole idea. You know, that's the whole idea. So I love
you
that.
know
And, hola.
there's Soul Quest has been such a catalyst for change for so many people, and it has opened eyes of over, you
Yep.
know, when I was there in 2020, it was over 15,000 people. I asked Chris, I was like, how many people's come through the doors? You know, not how many ceremonies, but how many individual people has come here? Over 15,000. And I know the number is way more than that now.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless,
Over
regardless,
20.
regardless of any other experiences or anything else that went on at Soul Quest, I have found great gratitude in the fact of the tidal waves that is created in the vibration of the collective consciousness, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you have been such a big part of that. Like I told Hamilton, Hamilton Souther when I had him on, he has inadvertently affected hundreds, maybe even thousands of people
Yeah.
through me, and
Yep.
that's the
Yep.
same thing. The same thing that's true for you. Without you being a small part or a large part of my beginning process, you have in turn affected hundreds and thousands of people through
Yeah.
my ceremonies, my work, my
Absolutely.
books, and everything else. So that
Yep.
I honor you
Thank
in
you.
that part, man. And
Thank you. It's an honor.
definitely,
It's an honor for me because you know, I always say I'm about my mother's business, and that's what I'm about. It's like to be able to help be an instrument that brings people further into their path to their true selves. That's the point. You know, that's the point. You know, let
Mhm.
us all find our way home. We're all walking each home. We're all walking each other home together. So,
Well,
however we do that,
dude,
however we do that,
if that wasn't it, what's your message for the people?
you know, be authentic.
Mm.
Be you. You know, you're the individual expression. Look at this guy. He's like so you. He's like so like authentic. And that's what I mean. It's like if you're silly, be silly. You know? I mean, be who you are. This universe is, you know, has designed you. You have been placed into this existence for a reason. So, you know, be you. You know, he's like, yeah, yeah. These guys are strong. Yeah. So yeah,
Well,
so I hear more kids coming.
I,
It's about chupete time, and so the kids are coming for their chupetes are lollipops, and so
uh-huh.
I have a tub stocked with candies, and so no candies in the morning, and so they don't really like me. They like the candy.
I'm, I'm sure they got a special place in your heart for you, man.
Of course,
I
yeah.
appreciate your time here, Dr. Scott. We got to have you back on again.
Yeah.
We got to continue this conversation, for sure, man.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to thank all your listeners too, because, you know, this is what we're trying to do. We're just trying to understand better, right? Just trying to
Yeah.
understand what this life is all about and bring more
We-
love and light. And so, what I always say is like, you know, this world is not complete without each and every one of you, you know, showing up as your highest versions of yourself. And so, do the work, get uncomfortable, blow snot bubbles, do whatever it takes to become that higher version of yourself because we need you, right? You, like way you showed up. I mean, think about that. This is what we're trying to do. And that's what I'm
yeah,
helping
it's
these kids do. These kids are the future generation of this indigenous tribe. And these kids, they got to have help or they ain't going to get there. So that's what, you know, that's why I love these kids. These kids are great kids. This one, Damien, is so smart, incredible, brilliant, muy inteligente. Yo dice que es increíble. Sí.
a nombre. What's his name? Nombre.
Damien. This is Adrian and Damien. Josue.
Blessings.
He also goes by Josue. He's like, hola. Hola.
But
Okay,
blessings
venga,
from the
venga.
states. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Scott. I
Thank
love you
you.
so much, man. I appreciate
Thank you,
you.
brother.
Every time,
This is Otra,
every
this is Belen. Belen. Thank
hola.
you. This is Sacha. Sacha, and Bailin. So, and
Hola.
Diana, ¿no? Es
Me gustaría.
Yaku. Palabras en inglés. ¿Conoces una palabra en inglés?
Hello.
Hello.
Bueno.
E-
Awesome.
Every time we connect, Scott, it seems like we just talked yesterday, man. It seems like
Yeah, it's nice to see you, brother.
it doesn't seem like there's been any time apart, man. It just
No
always
time.
seems like I just saw
No
you
time.
yesterday. I
No
love you
time.
and
It's
honor
great
you, man.
Thank you, brother. Have a good one.
You too. All right, everybody. That's been another edition of the Eagles Nest podcast. And yeah, hope you enjoy the rest of your day.